Hey guys, now that fall is in full swing, you know what that means, time for our pumpkin recipes. So this year, I wanted to show you how to make a fantastic swirly twirly pumpkin cinnamon loaf bread. I know, what a mouthful, but I'm telling you, it is really fantastic and worth all the time and effort. Let me show you how to make it. So in a large mixing bowl, we're going to add 1 packet of dry yeast, and then we're also gonna add a 1/4 cup of white sugar. To that, we're also gonna add a cup of warm water. Now it should be in a temperature range of 120 degrees Fahrenheit to 130 degrees. If it's not warm enough, your yeast is not going to activate, and if it's too hot, you can actually kill the yeast. So it is important to get within that range. You can use a meat thermometer for this. Then you wanna allow this mixture to sit for at least 5 to 10 minutes. It will start to become cloudy and a little bit foamy. If that doesn't happen, that might mean you're working with old yeast and it's best to start again. Then we want to add some additional wet ingredients to our yeast mixture. So we're going to add 1/2 cup of pure pumpkin puree, 1/3 cup of milk, 1 egg. Then we're also going to add 5 tablespoons of melted butter, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and then we're also going to add 1/2 cup of dried cranberries. I like to add them in at this stage because this mixture is still warm and it'll help plump up those cranberries a little bit. I think the cranberries in a bread like this just add a really nice tartness, and it just adds one more fall flavor to our bread. Then in another bowl, you want to add 4.5 cups of all-purpose flour and 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And you want to just mix that all together until combined. And then we are going to add this flour mixture to the wet ingredients a cup at a time, stirring with a wooden spoon, or I really love this Danish dough whisk. I can't say enough about it. You may have seen it. I used it in my blueberry scone recipe, and I've just discovered it's really fabulous for bread dough too, because it mixes up the flour and kind of separates it with the dough, and you don't end up with a big sticky ball like you do sometimes with a wooden spoon. I'll put a link in the description if you want to know where to get one. Then once all your flour is incorporated, you can take the dough out of the bowl, and then you want to knead it about 8 to 10 times. So pulling it towards you and sort of smushing it down and folding it over and just kind of turning it about 8 to 10 times. Then at this stage, you want to grease a large mixing bowl with a tablespoon of butter, transfer the dough into the bowl, and then you can cover it with a clean kitchen towel or some plastic wrap. And then you want to put it in a warm place for an hour to double in size. And I just love to use my oven with the oven turned off because it's hidden away, nobody's going to peek at it or touch it, and you won't end up having any drafts. Then about 15 minutes before your dough is ready, you can mix up your filling. So in a small bowl, we're going to combine 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of white sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 1 tablespoon of fresh orange zest, and 1/2 cup of chopped pecans. Then you're going to stir that all up until combined, and then you also want to have ready 3 tablespoons of melted butter. Then we are going to bake this in a loaf pan, so we want to prepare our pan first. So I like to spray it with some baking spray, and then take some parchment paper that's fitted just to the long side of the tin. So just get those flaps kind of hanging over and fold them down just to keep them steady. This will make our bread super easy to just lift out once it's baked. Then once our dough is fully risen, you'll see it doubles in size, and it really creates such a beautiful, soft, pillowy dough. And we want to roll it out so that it's 9 inches wide, because our loaf pan is 9 inches wide, and this will allow it to fit snugly inside. So about 9 by 15 is the rectangle we're looking for. And then you want to smear the whole thing with the melted butter, and then you can sprinkle the cinnamon sugar on top. And then working with the short end, we want to roll it tightly. So you want to get at least 3, maybe 4 turns, because that's going to create the really nice cinnamon swirl effect in the bread. And then once you do that, here's sort of the fun, fancy part. We're then going to take it lengthwise and cut it in half. And that is going to expose all of the cinnamon part. And then we're going to twist them one under the other until we run out of slack. And then you can tuck the ends under a little bit. And this is going to bake up to create the most beautiful design and expose a lot of that cinnamon sugar, which will bake on top and become really caramelized and delicious. There, now we've got this real twisty bread that we are going to gently plop into the pan. And then you can tuck the ends under a little bit. And then you can let it sit just like this in the tin, uncovered, on your countertop for 30 minutes. Now I know at this point you're like, but we already went for an hour and now we have to do another 30 minutes, but this is what's gonna create that beautiful volume on the bread. And really, by the time you do all the dishes that you made from the filling and clean off your board, 30 minutes has passed. So it goes by pretty quickly. Then we're gonna place our bread in a 350-degree Fahrenheit oven for anywhere from 35 to 40 minutes. You'll see your bread will be beautifully risen and golden brown, and while it's cooling, you can whisk up the cream cheese glaze, which is super simple to do. So in a small bowl, you're going to add a 1/4 cup of cream cheese, a tablespoon of powdered sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1 tablespoon of milk. And then whisk that all up, and really at this stage, the consistency is up to you. If you want a thinner glaze, you can add more milk. If you want a thicker glaze, you could add another tablespoon or so of the cream cheese. Then once your bread is cool enough to handle, you can remove it from the tin and place it on a cooling rack, and then just drizzle the glaze all over the bread. And it helps if you do this either with a whisk or a fork, because if you do it with a spoon, you'll end up with kind of some globs of glaze. And then when you slice into this bread, you will see how light and fluffy it is. Loaded with all those cranberries and the cinnamon swirl, and then of course topped with that delicious glaze. It is one fantastic fall treat. Now, if you would like a cinnamon roll recipe that rises while you sleep, then you can click this annotation and I'll meet you over there and show you how to make that one.